Good evening, viewers, and welcome to tonight's regional news. We begin with news from Brazil. Brazil's defense ministry on Wednesday named new commanders of its armed forces a day after the previous three chiefs were sacked as part of President Jair Bolsonaro's unprecedented attempt to meddle in the military. Paulo Sergio Nogueira de Oliveira will take over the Army, Almir Garnier the Navy, and Carlos Almeida Baptista Jr. the Air Force, said Defense Minister Walter Braga Neto in his first news conference since assuming his new roles this week. They also mark a stark shift in relations between Bolsonaro, a far-right former army captain who has stacked his government with current and former military personnel, and the career officers running the armed forces. On Wednesday, 6 potential presidential candidates, including Sao Paulo Governor João do Rio and Bolsonaro's former health minister Luiz Henrique Mandetta, wrote an open letter in defense of democracy. They wrote, I quote, "Men and women of this country who appreciate freedom, whether civilians or military, regardless of party affiliation, color, religion, gender, and origin, must be united in the defense of democratic consciousness. We will defend Brazil," end of quote, without mentioning Bolsonaro. And to continue in Brazil, Brazil has detected a new COVID-19 variant in Sao Paulo state that is similar to the one first seen in South Africa, the head of the state's Butantan Biomedical Institute said yesterday. Speaking at a press conference the day after Brazil suffered a record 3,780 deaths in a day, Butantan President Dimas Covas said the patient with the variant had no history of travel to South Africa. The South African variant has alarmed public health experts as there are questions over how effective current vaccines are against it. Brazil is also grappling with its own homegrown variant called P1, which appears to be fueling a record-breaking run of infections. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who has come under fire for his handling of the pandemic, on Tuesday signed an executive order to disperse 5.3 billion reais, $918 million US, in new loans to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The new loans will be used to prop up Brazil's health system, the finance ministry said. The health ministry, which will receive the funding, said it will use it at over 2,600 public health clinics, as well as to build more hospital beds. And now for some more news. U.S. authorities have released a video showing 2 children being dropped off at 14 feet wall by alleged smugglers at the U.S.-Mexico border in New Mexico. The children, siblings from Ecuador, were taken to the hospital by Border Patrol agents and are now in the care of U.S. authorities. El Paso Sector Chief Patrol Agent Gloria L. Chavez said she was, and I quote, "appalled by the way these smugglers viciously dropped innocent children from a 14-foot border barrier last night," end of quote. U.S. authorities are now working with law enforcement in Mexico to identify the people seen dropping the children. We now turn our attention to the twin island of Trinidad and Tobago. Minister of Health Taraz D.L. Singh on Wednesday could not confirm whether the batch of COVAX vaccines that came in on Sunday was paid for by the government or by the Inter-American Development Bank, and said that he would have to check in with his permanent secretary, Asif Ali. Dio Narayan also requested that the ministry submit the percentage differences between the government spend and the IDB loan, which Ali promised to supply in writing. Fellow PAAC member and opposition Senator Wade Mark asked Ali for a detailed listing of all the available contributions, grants, and loans by all international lending agencies, which Ali also promised to supply at a later date. With regards to vaccine donations, Ali said that there have been no confirmed date of delivery for those as yet. Last week, the Minister of Health and the private sector agreed to work together to access more vaccines. At that time, conglomerate Anson McCall said that it had access to 1 million vaccines from the Serum Institute in India. Ali said that the ministry wrote to the private entities and are still awaiting feedback from those agencies. And finally, in Jamaica, Approximately 75,000 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine from the African Medical Support Platform are expected in the island in the next 5 days. This will be followed by 20,000 doses of Moderna from commercial sources 2 to 3 weeks later, along with another 26,000 doses of AstraZeneca thereafter. This was announced by Chairman of the National Health Fund, Howard Mitchell, in giving an update on Jamaica's prospects of obtaining vaccines for the population in light of the global scarcity and the volatility of supply of COVID-19 vaccines. It said among the challenges faced in securing COVID-19 vaccines for the country are issues surrounding production as the manufacturers face difficulties in raw material supplies and transportation logistics. And that is all for your regional news. Thank you for joining.